Good morning and welcome to our Friday Assembly. We would like to recognize and acknowledge the Songhees and the Esquimalt nations on whose traditional land we live, work, play, and learn. Please stand for O Canada and the school song. Now cover your ears because it's time for Friday Morning Online.
Orange Shirt Day is September 30th, and it's a day when we honor the Indigenous children who were sent away to residential schools in Canada and learn more about the history of those schools. Residential schools were church-run schools where Métis, Inuit, and First Nations children were sent between the 1860s and the 1990s. The school removed children from their families, forcing them to speak English or French instead of their ancestral languages, disconnecting them from their culture and their traditions. The government has acknowledged that this was the wrong thing to do and have apologized to the Indigenous people of Canada in 2008. September 30th was chosen to recognize this at this time because it falls during the time of year when Indigenous children were taken away to residential schools. The orange shirt in Orange Shirt Days refers to the new shirt that Phyllis Webstad was given by her grandmother for her first day of school at St. Joseph's Mission Residential School in British Columbia when she was just a little girl. When Phyllis got to school, they took away her clothes, including her new shirt, and it was never given back to her. To Phyllis, the color orange has always reminded her of her experience at residential school, and she has said, "My feelings didn't matter. And no one cared that I felt like I was worth nothing." The message that Phyllis wants to pass along on Orange Shirt Day and every day is that every child matters. Orange Shirt Day was started by Phyllis to educate people about residential schools and fight racism and bullying. And now I have a book that is being read by David Robertson, the author, called When We Were Alone. After that, you are invited on Wednesday, September 30th, to wear an orange shirt with your uniform in recognition of this very important day. Thank you.
Hi, my name is David Robertson, and this is When We Were Alone. I wrote it, and Julie Flett illustrated it, and I'm going to read it to you. Today, I help my Kukum in her flower garden. She always wears colorful clothes. It's like she dresses in rainbows. When she bent down to prune some of the flowers, I couldn't even see her because she blended in with them. She was like a chameleon. "Nukum, why do you wear so many colors?" I asked. Nukum said, "Well, Nusissum, when I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I wore many different colors. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they gave us different clothes to wear. All the children were dressed the same, and our clothes weren't colorful at all. We all mixed together like storm clouds." "Why do you have to dress like that?" I asked. "They didn't like that we wore such beautiful colors," Nukum said. "They wanted us to look like everybody else." But sometimes in the fall, when we were alone and the leaves had turned to their warm autumn hues, we would roll around on the ground, we would pile the leaves over the clothes they had given us, and we would be colorful again. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always wear the most beautiful colors. After I'd helped with the flowers, we went over to the back gate. There were vines covering the gate, and they reached all the way to the ground. When my Kukum turned to fix the latch, I saw that her braid hung almost as low as the vines. It was like she had a tail. Nukum, why do you wear your hair so long? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusissum, when I was your age at home in my community, my friends and I grew our hair long, just like our people have always done. It made us feel strong and proud. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they cut off all our hair. Our strands of hair mixed together on the ground like blades of dead grass. Why did you have to wear your hair like that? I asked. They didn't like that we were proud, Nukum said. They wanted us to be like everybody else. But sometimes in the spring, when we were alone and the grass had grown so long and thick in the field, we would pick the blades from the ground. We would braid them into the short hair they had given us, and we would have long hair again. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always wear my hair very long. After my Kukum had fixed the latch, I followed her to the birdhouse. There was a bird flying through the air like a jingle-dressed dancer. She fed the bird and whispered, Napinesis, Michiso, Tamasikatian, Tamaskaisian. And that means, here, little bird, eat so you will get big and strong. And her words sounded just like a poem. Nukum, why do you speak in Cree? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusissum. When I was your age, at home in my community, my friends and I always spoke our language. But at the school I went to far away from home, they wouldn't let us speak our words. All the children used their strange words, and we didn't understand them at all. Our voices blended together like a flock of crows. Why'd you have to talk in their language? I asked. They didn't like that we spoke our language, Nukum said. They wanted us to talk like everybody else. But sometimes in the summer, when we were alone and our teachers weren't anywhere around the place we were, we would whisper to each other in Cree. We would say all the words we weren't allowed to say so that we wouldn't forget them. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said, I always speak my language. After our gardening work was done, I sat with my Kukum in the backyard. Her brother came over and sat with us. He comes over all the time. We drank tea and ate bannock. The tea was hot and sweet, and the bannock was moist and warm and melted in my mouth. My Kukum and my uncle talked and laughed like children. Nukum, why do you and Nokomis always spend time together? I asked. Nukum said, well, Nusissum, when we were your age at home in our community, being with family was the most important thing. We played with each other, did chores together, and shared everything. But at the school I went to, far away from home, they wouldn't let us be together. My brother and I were separated like day and night. Why were you and Nokomis separated? I asked. They didn't like when we were with family, Nukum said, because when we were together, we thought too much of home. But sometimes in the winter, when we were alone, and we were sure that nobody could see us, we would find each other. We would take off our mitts, and in the crisp, cold air, we would hold hands so we could be with each other. And this made us happy. Now, Nukum said as she reached over and held my uncle's hand in mine, I am always with my family. The end.
Terry Fox said, anything is possible if you try. People think running more than halfway across a country, in not only any country, the second biggest in the world, was possible. Nobody thought that was possible, but it was possible. And not only for the strongest people in the world, but a person that had one leg.
But the answer is to try and help others. Terry Fox is brave. Terry Fox did everything with his heart and he was strong. Terry Fox did not want to get rich, he just wanted to fight cancer. He fought cancer by running. He ran 143 marathons in a row. Terry Fox is a hero. Terry Fox did not keep a single penny for himself. Terry Fox did not give up to maybe run around the world. We thank Terry Fox. Terry Fox ran halfway across Canada. Before Terry Fox went to sleep, he would always put this heart rock down on the ground and slept, and then the next day he would start exactly where the rock was and start running. Here is a picture of the rock. Terry Fox did not want to cheat. Terry Fox put this rock on the floor every day, so the next day he would remember where he started. They put a statue where Terry Fox didn't finish the run. The statue pointed to Victoria. Terry Fox told us if you give $1, you are part of the Marathon of Hope, so give $1. I think that Terry Fox was a huge risk taker and took a big risk for wanting a marathon for a long time. I think Terry Fox was really brave. Terry Fox put his bottle in the ocean and poured it out in the Pacific Ocean. Terry Fox ran a marathon for 145 days in a row. Terry Fox is very kind. Because he did not care that he spent his time in a stinky van or just not running. He still cared about the children that have cancer. And he has the gift of kindness. It's okay, you can do it, just try. Good job! Terry Fox balanced on one leg, kicking the football. He was scared. He would fall on the ground in front of lots of people. He tried. We have raised $750 billion.
Terry spent his whole life raising money to fight cancer, so when Christmas was near, he didn't have money to buy his mother a Christmas present. Terry had to get money from his friends to buy his present, and the present was a pink garbage can, since he thought it was a good decoration for his mother's bathroom.
Terry had to borrow money so he could buy a present for his mom. He bought a beautiful trash can for her bathroom. It was pink with stars on it. He had love in his heart. We love Terry! Let's fight cancer together!
I want to fight cancer.
We want to fight cancer! We want to fight cancer! Keep Terry's dream alive! Together.
Mr. Bowers, do you have any announcements?
The only announcement I have is that we're going to be hosting our Terry Fox Run on Friday, October the 2nd. We're going to ask that each child bring in $5 or donate online. Remember to wear your tracksuits, and parents, we're going to send you an email outlining the details.
Dear students, it's come to our attention that mud is being tracked into our brand new school. Please, we must make every attempt to use outside shoes for outside activities only, and then change into the inside shoes. We need to keep our brand new school looking clean.
Thank you, and have a fantastic weekend, everyone.